So, we've been going down memory lane a lot lately. Not because we're suffering from dementia, well, some of you are probably. Sometimes I genuinely think there is a deficiency of brain cells in you guys. But in my previous video we went over an infamous fairy who did some very deplorable things, starting all the way back in 2021. We basically went over their activity from 2021 to 2024, and basically what they're doing now and if there is any more activity, and if they're still active on the internet in general. And recently I developed a mannerism of looking back at the past. No, that's not depression, I'm not relating to you whatsoever. It's just me trying to bring back traumatic stories from the scars of the internet, with the end goal of hopefully getting you in a straitjacket. Most of you deserve it and require it, let's be honest. But one person I was thinking about recently was Tall Knight. Tall Knight had quite the rise and fall quite quickly. From a beloved TikToker that was inspiring most men to get back in the gym and change their life, and releasing serotonin with this fucking banger. Most of my 2023 TikTok, when I did have it, thank god I'm released from that curse. This is an ad for Instagram Reels where I can see people die daily. But my For You page was crowded with this guy and impersonators, and I don't know if it was the music or the motions he would do with his head and body, like this motherfucker was snake charming me or something, but serotonin would be released when watching his videos. But he went from a beloved TikToker to someone targeted by the internet and shrouded in controversy, due to the fact he said some terrible things and made some terrible decisions. Subsequently, due to those two elements, generated some terrible responses which just shrouded him in even more controversy. But we'll go over most of that and answer the question, what happened to Tall Knight and where is he today? And recently, how has he exonerated himself from the allegations that were stacked up against him? But anyway, who is Tall Knight? Tall Knight is actually very self-explanatory. He is a very tall guy, 6'5" to be accurate, and donning the helmet of a knight, which is very reminiscent of the Swagger Souls era, where everyone would either start wearing knight helmets, or pinch their testicles so they could replicate his voice, and tell everyone it was their natural voice, and complain to everyone, why does everyone always say I'm Swagger Souls?
Happy Halloween, everybody! I have candy in my van if anyone wants to go out back.
Oh my god, it's Swagger Souls.
That is one trend on the internet I absolutely despised, but Tall Knight actually had a love for Swagger Souls, as he was one of his role models and somebody he appreciated. But Tall Knight initially arrived on the scene in early 2022, as his other TikTok account was banned for whatever reason, which had 150,000 followers, basically being reduced to ash at the end. And on his new account he would share this frustration, with him freaking out and saying, oh, everyone's gonna forget me now. I put 2 years of work into something for nothing.
150,000 followers down the drain. It's 2 fucking years of my life. And you're all gonna forget about me.
And then he starts punching a wall like it's Minecraft or something. But after that, his content was followed up by him basically saying, I'm gonna get all those followers back, and some occasional thirst traps, and showing off his good physique. But Tall Knight cultivated a much larger audience, all the way back in early 2023, with his notorious body movement of moving his neck to the remix of Lil Uzi Vert's Watch This, most of the time accompanied by some arbitrary positive events, like finding gum you didn't know existed, or all your friends finally joined the party voice chat, after having to spam invite one of them, who apparently just got afflicted with scoliosis, as they were ready to play games a minute ago, but a minute later they for some reason became unresponsive. But anyway, this trend was Tall Knight's goldmine. This is what initially made him popular, along with his goal to make feel-good and positive content, whilst also speaking about men's mental health, and how good it is to stay healthy. And many people enjoyed this content and idolised him, even blowing up his YouTube the moment it was announced. But where did it all go wrong? And why did this once loved content creator that many looked up to turn into the internet's toilet and his reputation seemingly diminished?
So you admit you did send explicit photos to this 16-year-old girl?
Now the first controversy, everyone seemingly rallied behind him to support him, and that was when his sister and her husband kicked him out for supposedly bringing a girl over without their knowledge. And Tall Knight was around 18 to 19 at this time, and he was not making enough money off TikTok to support himself. I don't think anyone makes a good living off TikTok, to be honest. It's like a child labour sweatshop, but in video format. But he would upload a TikTok basically freaking out again, and basically saying, you know, he needs help, he's just been thrown out, and he would link his Cash App so people could donate so he could stay at a hotel or something.
I just got kicked out. I'm homeless now. I have nowhere to go. Would not be doing this unless it was a last resort. I swear to God, I've wanted to do this sooner because I haven't made enough money. I don't make enough money to eat every day. But I never came to you guys asking for money. I never came to you asking for help.
Well, in the first hour, he almost got $15,000.
In the meantime, however, it's been an hour! An hour! Stop sending me money! I'll be okay!
And with an update that he was staying with a friend, so he isn't roaming the streets in a night helmet. And he was telling people to stop donating money, he'll be fine. And then he eventually got a hotel with that money, and he was excited that he had a place to start making TikToks again. And he would also make some weird comments about how his sister's husband loves to be pegged, and he found one of the toys. Like, buddy, don't make fun of a man. And his extracurricular activities, especially in Discord in front of all your audience. But that was after, unbeknownst to him, the other side would make a TikTok and he would have to defend himself. And they would basically say, hi, this is the landlord, his brother-in-law. We didn't kick him out without warning. He was actually pre-warned in advance. And he's not actually broke. He actually had enough money to fly a girl out to stay at our house, unbeknownst to us. And we basically kicked him out because of that. And the video of him freaking out on the street is seemingly disingenuous because he had forewarning. Because he had a week to get his affairs in order to find another place. After getting thrown out that one night for bringing the girl over and having activities with said girl. And the suitcase isn't even his.
Elijah lived with me since he turned 18, with me and my wife and my children. The understanding was that he was to be a normal house guest, operate under the understanding that this is my house. He lives here as a guest, does pay rent, not a lot, but he was to live here because we took him in. Now, the incident in question happened because he decided that it was in his prerogative to fly up a girl from out of state to stay in my house with my children and me and my wife without asking first.
And his response was basically talking for 20 minutes about how big the situation is. Like, seriously, most of it is him just incorporating adjectives.
Needs to be addressed. I've avoided talking about this on my main account because you must empathize with me, alright? Keep an open mind. However, it's becoming a little ridiculous. It's blowing way out of proportion now. It's getting insanely exhausting. There's a massively, very fast spreading. There's twists and turns to this story. That there's a big plot twist to it. There's just some kind of like ending that you weren't expecting.
Like, the entire video is basically edging you till he gets to the point, with the end statement of join my Discord and look at my statement.
So this is the one time that I will actually address this issue on my main account. Alright? The whole story is in my Discord.
I sat through all of that just to get invited to a Discord. Now, basically, in the Discord, he says, "Nuh-uh, I did not scam my fans with a fake situation." And goes on to say it in a rather informal way, with a lot of emojis, and information we did not need to see, including the sex life of his sister, and dropping his own sister in even further shit by providing out-of-context information not viable for the situation at all, by saying his sister isn't allowed to work with kids anymore, and even linked the news article. But when you get past all of the out-of-context information, what he tries to say is, his sister knew the girlfriend was coming, she caught them having premarital sex, and they live in a Christian household, and she kicked them out, along with the evidence that he did in fact get the text message from the brother-in-law saying they can stay until the mum's up, but the girl is not to be there. But he refused this offer and instead posted the video he recorded a night earlier. And then he goes on to exclaim he did not scam anyone, in a way that almost seems like he's gaslighting you, like, you know, you guys know me. I wouldn't scam you. But that was basically the whole situation. Whilst it was unclear if they actually knew the girl was coming, he definitely knew that there was no premarital sex to be had in a Christian household. The sister thought he supposedly broke this after seeing them in bed together. He then provided a bunch of unneeded information about his sister. She kicked them out after finding them in bed together. He recorded the video. The next day later got offered to come back. He said no. then uploaded the video. Now, did he scam his audience? Yes and no. He was disingenuous about the situation and the context behind it, but he was still getting thrown out with 7 days left to find a new place with barely any money to his name, which would be seemingly impossible unless fans helped fund that. And he also did supposedly refund some of the donations. But the next controversy was a lot more simple and idiotic. Now, Tall Knight's mission was very simple, to spread positivity and good vibes, something of which he would go against when a trans music creator made a song, uploaded it to TikTok, and because Tall Knight did not like the song, he decided to purposely misgender them and also say their song was terrible, on his main account with 1 million followers, by the way. Now, the internet rightfully lost their shit, and he gained the title of transphobe, seemingly overnight, and his response would basically be, guys, I'm being cancelled again. And he would go on to say he said this due to his religion, because God made you perfect the way you are, and changing your gender is basically going against that. And then after saying that, he backtracks a little and then says, if you're trans and you support him, you're valid.
And yes, I will admit, it was in a derogatory manner. It was an insult, because I didn't like the person's music. Yeah. So, for that, I apologize. That was wrong of me. I should be more sensitive when it comes to that type of thing, even though that's not what I believe. The misconception was that my personal belief as a man of faith was that God created you perfect. I accept everyone. You're all welcome here, all of you. But then that gets tricky when it comes to people who transition, because I still believe that how you were made was perfect. That does not mean that I do not accept you should you make that transition. So to be blunt, if you are transgender and you follow me, you are valid.
But all that rose from this controversy is people think he's a bit of a hypocrite, with some people believing if he is such a devoted Christian, why would he tell everyone he had premarital sex? But I guess an excuse for that could be you could choose what you will and will not do in a religion. Him doing premarital sex, but choosing not to turn the other cheek when other people do what they want with their own body, I guess. And the other thing people got from this was that maybe he really isn't just this positive guy. Regardless of religion, he purposely went out of his way to create some sort of negative impact for this person. But the conclusion was they both kind of talked about it and went their separate ways. Now we're only halfway through the controversies, with only 2 major ones left. But there was one very quickly, where he found a creep online that was leaving posts on his ex's profile, and this guy actually was a piece of shit, making a website of potential girlfriends, a majority of them being underage, and he would leave creepy comments under most of their profiles.
Called Potential Girlfriends, with a long list of women's names, most of them underage, linking their Facebooks for the public to see.
He was also trying to get zoophilia and CP on his own website, from the dark web to the clear web.
We'll start adding zoophile sites to Saucy soon because on the ClearNet, but until CP gets off the darknet and goes to the ClearNet, we can't add it to Saucy because there's no way to get it to the ClearNet.
And Tall Knight was basically trying to spread word about this, because he was personally affected in this matter, and it got to the point where Tall Knight actually showed up to his house to have a physical fight with him, but the police were called and they basically shooed him away.
So, hey Bryce, I know you said you said let's go, right? You said meet you outside, you said bring it on, right? That's your house, right?
That was a quick synopsis of that controversy. The next one was his adult content. Now he started to create workout videos on his Patreon platform due to the reason he said people kept requesting what he does for his workout, because he has such a good physique and he's only been working out for 3 months. And he has this great workout which will turn you into him in 3 months.
The top 3 questions I always get is how tall are you, what video games do you play, and what's your workout routine? So I figured I should finally end up coming out about that and capitalizing on it by offering to sell people my workout routine, because it's incredibly effective. I've only been working out a couple of months and I have a relatively good physique.
He's selling it like it's a masterclass. Like all you need is 2 dumbbells and you can probably work out every muscle in your body. Well, this workout Patreon slowly developed into him showing his sword. His flesh sword. And he had a number of perks based on the tier you were subscribing to. But come on. Whimpering audio. Like, I'm not kink shaming, but after hearing Gojo whimpering on one of my other videos, I can't look at that seriously anymore. And I imagine it would sound like the jockey from Left 4 Dead 2. But there were multiple problems with this. One being people thought he was just spreading positivity, not trying to spread his meat, but I guess they both work together. Some people might have been happy to see his meat, I don't know. And the other being primarily most of his audience were children. And when he was advertising this Patreon, he got a lot of down bad comments from children. And sometimes he would reply to these comments, not knowing they were children supposedly, with some down bad replies. And for a small amount of time, the Patreon wasn't age-gated, meaning that any infant could go on that and see his schmeat. But when this was brought up, he did eventually age-gate it and remove all NSFW pictures from that platform, because it was against Patreon's terms and service, and the only reason he was using Patreon was because it takes less of a cut than OnlyFans. The problem people had with this controversy was the fact primarily most of his audience were children, and he made quite a quick pivot into adult content and advertised it on his TikTok with like a lot of thirst traps. The point being, people thought most of his audience were children and he shouldn't advertise it so blatantly, but also that he should probably check who he's replying to when he tries to advertise his OnlyFans. And two, people thought once again he has strayed from the path of just creating positive content. But the next one and last one was the tactical nuke to his career that completely destroyed his reputation and turned all his fans against him. And that was supposedly talking inappropriately to minors. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again. It's always this. It's never tax evasion, it's never inside trading, no money laundering, and not even embezzlement. It's always either grooming or something to do with kids that kills these people's careers. But there were two main people on TikTok that were accusing him of this, and that was Professor Pippi.
I'm a feminist. I can actually cook.
Yeah, well, I am a feminist. Now watch me cook.
Go ahead, run your mouth.
And the other one being your favorite guy.
The Olympics because they're war criminals. But IDF soldiers are still allowed to compete? Got it.
Now, Professor Pippi isn't uploading that much to the internet anymore, and your favourite guy seems to be eating sandwiches whilst talking about politics. Now, Professor Pippi initially went after Tall Knight because he lied about the weight of his sword. Tall Knight was saying it was 40 pounds, instead it was actually 10. And ever since, Pippi kind of just reported any news on Tall Knight. Some videos like where some fake screenshots came out where he was lying about the situation of him being thrown out and he was in fact bawling, but it was just somebody using his profile picture and talking to a random girl. So after that video was up for a certain amount of time and people believed it, he then removed it, which to his credit you should do if the information is false. He then took down another video where he was talking to a Discord mod who was 17 and he was 19 at the time, making fun of her and calling her cute, but it turns out the conversation was just taken out of context, so he took it down. And there was another 16-year-old he was flirting with, and Tall Knight came out with the excuse, oh, I didn't know she was 16, it wasn't in her bio, she had tattoos, I thought she was over 18. And then to support his claim brings up the age of consent law of his state, to show that he had done nothing legally wrong. But if you're in an argument and you have to summon this legendary response, which many YouTubers have done in the past, you may as well just FF, GG, next game, because it never looks good. Yes, you did not commit a crime, but you still look morally bankrupt with this action. And people are still going to judge you in a negative light. And even responded to comments claiming she was 15 by saying, actually, she was 16. And also using the excuse, I'm 19, she was 16, there's not that much of an age gap. But the internet had already decided he was in the wrong, with the reasoning there is a mental difference between those ages, and he had already dug himself a hole anyway. Now for the final killing blow, there was another 16-year-old. Why were there so many 16-year-olds in this situation? But anyway, he was talking to this 16-year-old over Snapchat, and he sent a dick pic. But before Pippi made a TikTok, he actually went directly to Tall Knight to talk about it, because the girl notified Tall Knight she was sending the conversation to Pippi. And Professor Pippi was able to drag him on a call to get him to admit to it, and for some reason he also admitted he's a sociopath. Don't know why you would admit that.
So you admit you did send explicit photos to this 16-year-old girl?
Yeah, that's absolutely my fault.
Okay.
I've been called sociopathic in an unfathomable amount of times in my life, because I just try and see the world in like pros and cons, like a spreadsheet almost.
But with those few words, it was all said and done. He tried rebuttaling, but he had no ground to stand on. Nobody wanted to support him, and all his followers were turning against him. And when he did try to respond to people, he came off as kind of a cringy asshole, with some poor responses like his response to your favourite guy showing his sociopathic tendencies, I guess.
At the end of the day, I'm now more known than I ever was. Notebook, and I just got like a couple pages down of just the most vile and out-of-pocket things I could think of. Stuff about your girlfriend, your parents, your mom's drinking problem. Like, get back at him. Ratio this motherfucker.
Making up a lie that my mom has a drinking problem is so low.
What you are is what you always have been and always will be. The fat kid at a playground picking fights for attention.
You'd know a lot about playgrounds, wouldn't you?
But the Tall Knight could not repair his reputation. He was not the positive guy he set himself out to be, and he made that abundantly clear with his responses to this drama. But the entire internet now had this reputation for him and this hate boner for him, so he had to leave TikTok and get a job. And every time he would post a TikTok or a YouTube video, everyone would just clown on him. And the internet concluded he was a bad guy and they were done with him now. And thus that was the end of Tall Knight. Now you would think that was the end of Tall Knight till he suddenly started saying he was innocent and started preaching he was exonerated. As months later he apparently found evidence that he was in fact innocent and was being framed. Now there was 3 victims Pip he presented. One was a Discord mod, but it was deemed that the conversation was out of context and he took the video down. The second, he assumed the girl was over 18 because she had tattoos and decided to flirt with her. But when the internet found out she was 16, he dug himself a deeper pit by, when realising she was 16, going on this whole defence act, saying that 16 wasn't that bad, which just incriminated him further. But he says himself he didn't actually send anything sexually explicit to this girl. And the third one being the most damning, as the girl recorded a Snapchat conversation with Tall Knight, something she apparently notified Tall Knight about, and sent directly to Pippi. Now Pippi did not show this conversation, he instead got Tall Knight into a Discord call to admit to it, and then used that admission to spread all over TikTok. And thus everyone thought Tall Knight was this terrible person now. But Tall Knight came back with a response video on his YouTube channel, which actually nobody cared about. Nobody paid it any notice whatsoever. And when watching that video, the funniest part for me was that one of my old channel videos from ages ago is listed as one of the videos giving him shit. It's just right there. But anyway, in this video, he goes over all the controversies without his helmet on. Kind of looks like pirate software if he took all the wrong choices in life. But he talks about all the victims in the video. The first one was out of context.
I was making fun of one of my Discord mods because of how short she was. She was like literally like barely above 4 foot. Like, I mean barely. And everyone in my staff team was all like kind of in on the joke. And then when I ended up insulting her, she took it incredibly personally and then decided to screenshot the conversation that I had with her and then immediately sent it straight to try to get me in trouble. And then Pippi decided to make a video and he was saying,
"This is one of his mods and she is 17 years old and that makes Tall Knight a pedophile."
And then I made a follow-up video saying that that was taken completely out of context, and furthermore, I am 19 years old. Once again, for the 3rd time, Pippi took down his video because nobody took his side and started making fun of him for being wrong again.
The second one, he didn't actually know her age, he just assumed.
And tattoos, which at very least where I live, you need to be 18 to get tattoos and piercings. So naturally, I was just like, okay, duh, she's over 18. There's no way she could have tattoos if she's under 18. So,
but he does not talk about the Discord screenshots where he admits this girl was 16. And the third one he now supposedly had evidence for, in a rather bizarre way. So the girl sent the Snapchat interaction directly to Pippi and Tall Knight to basically say, I'm sending this to Pippi. Once again, Pippi never showed the interaction, but instead had a 2-hour Discord call where Tall Knight says he talked about his life, everything he's been through. But throughout that 2-hour call, Pippi only showed about 20 seconds, and apparently told Tall Knight not to record at all.
Come and to hear my side of things. And he made me swear not to record the conversation. He made me promise that I was not recording before we started.
This 20 seconds was him admitting to it, but Tall Knight says he was only admitting to that he actually sent it to a 16-year-old, not the 20-year-old he thought he was sending it to. Now, Tall Knight apparently had the Snapchat recording the entire time. The recording where the girl says she is 20 years of age and was lying to him, and apparently Pippi had the same evidence. And Tall Knight goes on to explain he had this evidence, deleted it thinking he wouldn't need it, but it was on his phone so long it was backed up onto the cloud drive. And goes on to paint the narrative that Pippi set him up the entire time. Pippi had the evidence that this girl was saying she was 20, so he had no ground to stand on, as Tall Knight could just claim ignorance, so he used it as a bargaining chip to lure him into a Discord call to get him to say he messed up and sent it to a 16-year-old by accident, because he thought he was sending it to a 20-year-old. Now, does this prove he is innocent? Not at all. It's weird that he had this evidence the entire time and now just suddenly found it, and it's easy to re-replicate that Snapchat interaction. But if we give him a slither of benefit of the doubt, he would need Pippi to post the entire Discord call showing that he took it out of context, and he would also need Pippi to post the original Snapchat interaction he received from the girl, to show the Snapchat interactions are the same. So basically, in terms of evidence, it still shows that Tall Knight is in the wrong. He vocally admitted to doing it, and has no additional evidence to show that conversation was taken out of context, and that the original Snapchat interaction showed that the girl was lying about her age. But as of right now, Tall Knight has quit YouTube, and barely posts to his TikTok, where he still preaches he was actually innocent, and some fans have returned and said sorry, and some are still defending him. He even makes a joke that him and Dream were the same when the Dream allegations were going about. But in conclusion, Tall Knight was supposed to be a creator that made positive content, but instead frequently strayed from that path. Whether that was with his interaction with other TikTokers, like the trans person, and the people talking about his drama, or his interaction with fans. The one thing I can say for certain, he was no longer that positive light in the TikTok community. And with that, you can leave now. Bye bye.